Welcome back to Road Gang Radio. Join Jimmy Mack and Lindsay Lawler's Gang of the Airwaves by subscribing to Radio Nemo on YouTube.
We celebrate all kinds.
Make it official. After all, if you're listening, you're already in the gang. The Road Gang.
Darn tootin', and we're back with Lindsay Lawler and Jimmy Mack live from the Fastport Studios, baby.
Lindsay, I don't know if you remember my friend Adriana, who you got a chance to meet here at the Degas house. This is really cool. She lived on when she lived in New Orleans. She lived on Fats Domino Street, which
How fun!
Which is just terrific, by the way. Lived on Fats Domino Street, and of course, he was walking to New Orleans. Our next two guests.
He was walking in New Orleans. I cannot. You know I was going to.
Just wonderful. Just wonderful. 12,000 miles, 50 states. They set an example that with the right perspective, you can find contentment in nearly any circumstance. And by the way, in line and in thinking with the opening part of Road Gang Radio, which you're listening to right now, you can make friends with almost anybody. I mean, that's Will Rogers right there, writ large. A stranger is a friend I just haven't yet met. We lack happiness in the world, but if you want to change the world, you have to change yourself. Going walking to find happiness, really, Lindsay, in many ways, is walking to find happiness inside yourself and then bring it everywhere you go. In the tradition of Johnny Appleseed, the quality of their thoughts determines the quality of their lives and the lives around them. Their mission is to deliver the kind of content and tools which help retrain healthier thought patterns, and they believe that together, all of us can change the inside. And if we change the inside, we can change the outside. That's why I want everybody listening right now to go to walkingamericacouple.com. You can find them on the Book of Face at the same place, Walking America Couple, Walking America Couple on the Tube of You, on Instagram at Walking America Couple, and of course, the same place on TikTok. That content is rich, it is rewarding, it is warm. It's our pleasure here on Road Gang Radio to welcome Paige and Torin Rouse, Walking America Couple. Welcome to you both, and thank you for making the time in your busy walking schedule. Welcome.
Well, thank you for having us.
Yes, thank you so much.
Hi. Okay, wait. Before we dive in, so many places I want to go here with y'all. But is the walk? Oh, what I wasn't quite sure. It looked like watching the YouTube videos and such. Is the walk over? Have you completed it yet, or are we still in the process?
We are right about in the middle. We are doing 12,000 miles between all 50 states, and currently we have gone just over 6,000 miles in 27 states.
Okay, so where are you right now? Where are you calling us from today?
Right now we're in Oregon. We're just outside of Eugene, actually, on the outskirts of Springfield. And we're on a segment currently that takes us from the Canadian border to the Mexican border. So that's where we started this one about 2.5 months ago on June 13th, was up at the Peace Arch in Blaine, Washington on the Canadian border. Okay,
so let's start here. How long have you been married? Or together? 2.5 years. Okay.
Together 4 years.
I want to know what this has done for your relationship, because listen, there's times I'm walking down the same hall with my husband and I'm like, get out of the way. So we've been together a long time, but I cannot imagine this journey. I think it sounds amazing. I think this is one of those things, kind of like COVID, by the way, that will either make or break a relationship. You guys are clearly happily in love. Tell me what this has done for your relationship.
Well, we couldn't agree more. It's definitely going to make or break a relationship. Interestingly enough, we actually started the journey not as the Walking America Couple, just as a couple of people dating, walking America. And we got married after our first 1,500-mile segment.
Wow. Wow. Okay. What a honeymoon.
Paige, I want to talk about origin stories, by the way, because, this is, in many ways has a certain level of meet cute to it, as they call it in the script. Can you talk to a little bit about how you guys met? And, like I said, we're big fans of origin stories, and what that moment of, I don't want to say love at first sight, that moment of where the engine turns over, where you realize you're kind of in the middle of limerence. We'd love to hear that, because it's the starting point. It's the real beginning of the walk.
Yeah. How far back should we go?
I was born on a cold, sunny morning. No, wherever you want to go.
when I entered the story, Torin was already sort of an adventurer. He'd backpacked the mountains and traveled to states in a van for a couple years. So he had come home to do some work to save up some more money to travel. And I was his waitress is how we met. And for me, it was kind of love at first sight, not going to lie. I know. So cheap, but it really was.
Well, I was very interested in Paige. I just, I'm not emotionally dysregulated too easily. Yeah, I led strong actually, though. If there were any indication of how much I were into her, on the third date, I said, "You should get rid of everything you own and run away with me in a backpack."
Whoa. That could make some girls run the other way, you realize. So this tells you a lot about Paige.
Yeah, I laughed in response. I didn't know what to say. I was a little freaked out, but kind of interested. And he could tell.
Yeah, I said, "I see that you're not saying no. You're just laughing, but you're not saying."
So you're saying there's a chance.
Right, exactly. 1 billion.
What I think is lovely here, real quick, is the fact that actually, in articulating it, you've actually articulated the emotions of the moment too. Because there is a goofiness to that. When you find somebody that you want to go on a very long walk with, there's a sense of, how do you ask that? Hey, maybe we should take a long walk sometime. And that's
forever.
Kind of the beginning. And I wanted to ask, and that's the thing. I mean, I wanted to kind of ask you, Torin, because this is a thing where you've been doing this for a while, and you're asking somebody to join you on an adventure that actually does. Look, I'm a big hiker. I love hiking. My primary workout is to do anywhere from 45 minutes to an hour and a half, just to kind of stay in shape by going on a 12-3-30 incline. By doing that for 45 minutes to an hour and a half, it's really tough going. People don't realize if you don't regulate your water, if you don't pace yourself, you can cramp up and get really sick. So you're asking somebody to take this journey with you, but you take these journeys and you know how strenuous they are. Can you kind of talk a little bit about how you guys made sure that when you took the walk, you would take it in a healthy, happy place, not just in the beginning, but at the end?
Well, the nice thing is that we've always been into health and fitness. So when I met Paige, one of the first things that we did together was we went on a gym date where she did her very best to show me up during leg day.
Yeah, girl.
Now, it doesn't exactly translate so well over to walking. Walking exercises certain muscles that you rarely ever hit, even with squats, but we were definitely in a better starting place than we might have otherwise been. But Paige, at that point still, I think the bigger transition was she had never even been camping before. It was stuff like sleeping out in the dark, next to coyotes that sound like they're only a few feet away from you, and not knowing where you're going to sleep at night at times. Those were all larger transitions. So one of the stepping stones to that, I still had my van that I had converted, and rather than jump right into a walk across the country, Paige first moved out to Denver with me, where she met some of the people that were close to me. We lived together there for about 8 months, saving up to go on a large adventure. Took off in the van, and then after about a month and a half, playing in the sand pretty much, we were acknowledging that all of our best moments had occurred outside in nature, but we were still kind of retreating to our hidey hole in the van, as we're often inclined to when we have a comfy, cozy spot that we can retreat to. So she decided at that moment, well, I'll let you tell the story.
So Torin, I know for over a year, has been waiting for me to do something on foot with him. And I finally decide that I'm ready to do something on foot. The van wasn't the adventure or the challenge that I expected it to be. And so we started talking about all the ways that we might be able to walk some large walk. And within an hour, we decided we were going to start driving home and prepare to walk from Missouri across Kansas into Denver.
Wow.
And so the other piece to this is outside of, you do a lot of camping, but you guys are also staying with strangers. I saw you stayed somewhere like with, at least at the time that I watched the video, like upwards of 350 different strangers. Did I make that up?
No, we're close to 500 now. Yeah. That's
Holy crap. Wow. Okay, so how does that come about? Because that's a whole nother level of trust. I mean, I'd like to think that for the most part, people are good, and we take you in. And I'm a singer, so I've toured and traveled around. In my early days, we would do that. We would, like, somebody from the bar that was like the biggest fan that night, be like, "You want to stay at our place?" I'm like, "That's nicer than our hotel, so yes, please." So we certainly went that route, but it takes a lot of trust. But it makes you meet the most interesting people. At what point did you, Paige, I'll say, ask, when did that become a thing where you're like, we're gonna trust people, go in their homes and see what that leads to? Because I'm gonna guess when you meet somebody and stay in their home, they probably are like, give you ideas of where to go next, or any kinds of things. So how did that come up to be a part of this?
It kind of happened accidentally. The first person that invited us in their home, we just met on the side of the road. When they invited us in, we kind of looked at each other, trying to feel out how the other person was feeling. I guess got a good enough vibe and accepted the offer. And
and they invited us over for dinner, or we dinner, one of those kind of things, right? Yeah.
Yeah, he was quite the character. It's so funny. He's one of the best friends we've made on the walk, and the first friend and first host we ever had on the walk. And yeah, we've really definitely grown to trust people more over time. I think we also have a good feeler for people after meeting so many thousands of people, but by and large, people are trying to do good. People are trying to be kind, trying to be helpful. And at the very least, people who are on the meaner end aren't usually going to go out of their way to come give you a bad day.
Yeah.
One of the things that we hope to do through our content, one of the means of retraining healthier thought patterns, is by showing people the positive news out there. I think we can be misled by the filter bubbles that we're plugged into and think that the world is filled with all of these nefarious and malicious people that are just out to get us. I get the sense that some people almost have the impression they're going to get shot if they just walk out their front door living in a city, but that's not true. Most people are trying to raise a family, trying to live their lives, just trying to get by, and all of us kind of groping about in the dark as to how to do that ethically and morally, and some of us have some righteous indignation that we carry around with us, but by and large, we've had good experiences with people, and I think it really started as just a trail of breadcrumbs. There definitely were fewer hosts when we started, but it was incredible because we began with no social media. The first 6 months tour, that first 1,500 miles, was all blind. So people had no way to vet us. They, wouldn't have any ability to know if we were truly who we were and doing what we said we were doing. And yet they were welcoming us into their homes. Even some would let us borrow their vehicle or leave us at their house after they had gone to work and trust us with their things.
Or let us sleep in their church or restaurant or bar. We've slept in every kind of building you could think of also. We've been trusted with those spaces, and it's really changed.
I've slept in a bar too, Jim, but it wasn't on purpose. It was one of those end of the night situations.
I've done both. I've actually done both. I've actually been asked to leave bars that I've fallen asleep in, but also been like, hey, there's a guest room in the back of the French Quarter courtyard that you're in. Why don't you go crash there and then you can sleep it off? Actually, Torin, you actually began to answer this question to some degree. So there is the idea of something, then there is doing something, and then there's a point at which you start to do the idea that you're doing, that you begin to bring into focus what the thing itself is. And you talk about, going outside to find a way back inside to create a kind of kinder, gentler world to live in. Literally. At what point does the thematic of this begin to develop? I mean, was this kind of a mission statement? Lindsay talks about the idea of vision boards. I'm a big journaler. I believe that any journal that is like a purpose-driven journal should have a manifesto at the front that you have a right to go back and adjust as you go through it. Did this begin as a thematic idea that you guys then walked your way into, or was this something you just started walking? You said, let's walk, and then you walk, and then you're like, wait a minute, we can really accomplish something here. We're discovering something. Am I making sense? I'm asking chicken or egg questions here.
Yeah, you're absolutely making sense. It was a kind of natural evolution. When we started the walk, we did it in relation to the nature of mind, but it was more selfishly so that we could subject ourselves to the kinds of uncertainty and hardship that would allow us to acclimate to it. And then if you acclimate to the lowest of lows and discomfort and hardship, anything outside of that appears as a much greater surplus. It kind of resets your idea of what necessity really is, and it reorients your priorities, and it gives you a different way of looking out at the world and what your contentment is made of. But along those same lines, we acclimate to everything. Our shirts, our logos on our shirts, they actually are representative of neuroplasticity, but used to shape a more loving perspective. So you've got these little neuron emblems inside of the brain, inside of the head, inside of the heart on our shirts if people look that logo up. And that came about because while the journey was changing us and our resilience, we weren't expecting it to change us with regard to our perspective on people so much. I was much more cynical when we started, and it was like around every corner, some demographic that I had written off because I disagreed with them ideologically, let's say, was out there to extend a helping hand, give us a spot to sleep, give us water. I mean, just out of the blue, people will pull up on the side of the road and make sure that you're okay, or see if there's anything that they can do for you.
Or hand you a giant watermelon.
It was changing. Yes. Cold, ice cold in the middle of summer too. Anyway, it was changing us so much that we originally took it public just so we could show the kindness that we experienced along the way. And then that idea naturally developed to a much more holistic, kind of all-encompassing, expansive. We can habituate ourselves to healthier thought patterns, whether it pertains to finding contentment under a difficult circumstance, making ourselves more resilient, or making ourselves more loving, more open, and less judgmental.
Wow. Okay. So we're talking with Paige and Torin. You can go to walkingamericacouple.com to find out more about what they're doing, watch their videos, get inspired, get involved, maybe shout out, say you can stay at my house when you're coming across the country. So I'm curious. So we, guys, we have the vast majority of our audience are over the road truck drivers. I'm not sure if you know that or not. So I think this really speaks to them as far as obviously traveling and journeying. And then they have, on their off time, they sometimes get out and see a little bit. But
they should do it more.
They should do it more. And that's what the show's about. We talk about making a living, but also making a life. And this falls into making a life, how you make life on the road. But with all that said, especially on our show, we should write. We talk about writing and getting the clutter out so that you could get down to the core of who you are. It feels like this has a certain thematic similarity there, because you're getting down to less is more, which then becomes just more. It seems like you guys are expanding, becoming so expansive by focusing on smaller things. You don't have a lot of clutter. You're not, you don't have this crap in the van. You have your cart and your dog and you have each other, and then you have whatever comes next. So with all that said, is that sort of a piece of this too, to realize a little bit of the Maria Kondo effect, where we got to get rid of the clutter so we can get down to the core of the good of who we are and what we can see out there? Does that play in?
Absolutely. Yeah. One of the things that you learn when you get rid of all of your stuff and reduce your all the things that you're living with to a backpack is that everything that we're attached to takes up a kind of psychological space, and it can really separate us from our ability to introspect to such a degree that we really live so intentionally as to live according to our moral imperatives, just live as virtuously and optimally as we can. Now, obviously, that's much more difficult to do if you're working a typical 9-to-5 job. And the beauty of the walk is that we've been able to basically shape it so that it's just this experiment in how intentionally we can live.
Yeah. We also don't accept sponsorships or do business deals because we're trying to showcase the kindness that we can find in the world if we trust in the world to take care of us. If you do everything you can to live the best, most virtuous life, people and get that in return.
Yeah.
Sorry. One quick side note to not confuse the timeline with anyone who watches. The carts and dog are no longer. The puppy, unfortunately, has passed. He did 25 states with us, so we are now no carts.
Oh, rest in peace. What was the puppy's name? Jack. Shout out, Jack. Oh, very sweet.
Thank you, Jack. I hope he still walks with you. Paige, Torin has used a phrase a number of times, and I think you may have dropped it once or twice yourself, moral imperative. Can you kind of define that for me? Because in many ways, you guys are engaged in the movement. You are moving through time and space, and in moving through time and space, it is the clearest form of storytelling there is. We're driven by a theme. You've given us that theme. But when you say moral imperative, when he says moral imperative, what does that do for you? What do you think of when he says moral imperative?
There's this sort of drive that we've developed to keep walking the country. It's extremely difficult. It's a lot more hardship than it is reward. It's not something you see easily on our social media. You don't capture the pain in a picture, but we feel the drive to continue our walk because we feel morally obligated to try and make the world a better place, to try and put what we see as helpful to others before our own desires and comfort. And it is really the core driving factor of our walk. We make so many wonderful friends, but it wouldn't be worth it if we weren't impacting people, and people have reached out to let us know the personal impact that we've made on them, and it has meant so much and has motivated us to keep going and sharing what we are.
And I think if you're looking for specific when it comes to what our moral imperatives are as the Walking America couple, we prioritize certain things in our content. And the biggest sticking points probably for us, given that it's such a social journey, are not judging a book by its cover, so to speak, leading with love over judgment, open-mindedness over being closed off. And then you'll notice that if you do that and you meet people kindly, people that maybe meet you with negativity, it just transforms those conversations. We rarely end a conversation in any kind of dispute. Someone can meet you on the side of the road with ill intention, but through those particular imperatives, you have the ability to redirect it towards something much more productive and valuable for both parties. And that's really part of what we're trying to set the example for. It all has to do with the way that we think to ourselves. If you're stuck in a conversation with someone that you find frustrating, we're often saying to ourselves, well, this person's annoying, they should change this or that about themselves, I can't wait to get out of here. When really we could turn our attention inward back to the change the inside, change the outside, and instead say to ourselves, in psychology, this is known as cognitive reframing. We can instead say to ourselves, wow, I'm easily annoyed. I need to work on myself. What can I do about this? And it just ripples outward into the rest of the world in such a much more beneficial way than the typical means of interacting that we can be inclined toward.
We've only have a few minutes left, but there's so much. I love that this is so deep-seated and so much more than just, hey, we wanted an adventure. Like, you guys really are changing the world. And I talk about this a lot, and I need to work on it myself, but how we get overwhelmed with what could I do to change the world? I'm not boots on the ground overseas or whatever, but it's the idea of by changing yourself, you're better for you, therefore you're better for the people around you, therefore those people are better for the people around them, and there you go. There's the trickle down effect. So how would you each say with that? I love change the inside, change the outside. I think this is so powerful. Each of you, starting, Torin, we'll start with you first. How would you say that each of you can see yourself changed through this?
Ooh, that's a great question. Probably the biggest thing for me is that you learn over and over again that you can never really expect what you think you're going to expect out of a person. Mm-hmm. It's true that, like, stereotypes exist for a reason, and they usually reign true to some degree. But then out of those same people, you will see the most unpredictable measures of kindness, like you would have never imagined. So I think more than anything, I'm just learning more and more every day how much I don't know and how much I really do need to open myself up beyond what my predilections and predispositions and preconceptions are.
And Paige, well, Paige is as well.
Yeah.
I think one thing that I'm constantly learning and relearning, we're always oscillating and growing better and growing worse and relearning the same lessons. We are always forced to let go into the circumstance. I've been forced to not try and rein in for control over the security or the planning or knowing where I'm going to sleep and planning out all the details to try and feel control over your environment and feel like you're going to be safe. I've learned that if I let go into that sort of thing, it will always work out in some way or another, and it's allowed me so much more mental peace of mind. And that's been hugely impactful for me. I feel like I'm able to be more present in every moment.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
WalkingAmericaCouple.com in the American tradition of John Waters, Johnny Appleseed, Robert Pirsig, Jack Kerouac, Neil Cassidy, Helga Etzby and her daughter, Barbara Moore, our good friend Sarah Lee, and of course, most recently, Dr. Judy Benjamin. Paige and Torin Rouse have joined us this morning. They are the Walking America Couple. You can find them on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, and all the places you get your social media. It is a labor of love. It is a walk of life. And guys, you are welcome back no matter where your journey takes you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you so much.
I'm inspired, Jim. I don't think I could do it, but what I could do, what I like, what that they said, started out in the van. It's kind of like baby steps, and then realize, oh, I don't need that either. So I like the idea of being like, knowing this is a challenge, this is bigger than me, but it seems so far off of what I could do right now. So what is a step I could take to get to that? And that I could do. I could go out in a really nice tour van and then slowly let the pieces fall away. I could do that.
Well, that's how you got to do it, I think, to some extent. We talk about that adding the minute every day. I mean, is the fact that if you try to do it all in one shot, you end up giving up before you even get started. And the trick is to start slowly and then every day add a little something. I have started going to the gym and doing the walk, but then at the end of the evening after dinner, I put my headsets on, call a friend of mine, put them on the headsets, and then I take a long walk, and suddenly I look up and I've got 15,000 steps on the day. I got 15,000 steps yesterday, Lindsay. And that's because I took a friend on both occasions, both the gym with Brad, and then later on in the day, talking to Adriana, did that. And then I closed off the evening by wrapping it up with Claire. Find a friend and you can walk very far.